Okay, welcome back, guys. This is our next chapter, and I guess now we will tap into more scene details and scene setup before saving the final layout. And now, what we need to do more is to set up the. Uh, let's go back to the camera view. We need to set up the dimension of the camera that we're gonna use. We basically use either a square version of the camera crop, so it's gonna be like either 4000 by 4000 or 3000 by 3000. It's a big file, or it's a large resolution, but we will need this as we usually repurpose these images that we produce, and designer can or production artist or whatever, whomever is gonna work next on this can like recrop or change the crop of the object. So let's say this is like 4000 by 4000. You can keep this, or we can use like the 4 by 3 ratio and have this at 3000. So this is basically the format of the file. Then this will be related more to the animation. Sorry, I don't think we will need to tap into animation now, so no need to check this, but you can find like more details here, the frame per second, so the frame rate, and the scene timeline. And what we need to understand more, or what we need to focus on, is that like the output setup here. So first of all, if you have, let's say, some simulation, or you have some files that require some cache, or some simulation data, you can like cache result using this cache button, or checkbox to save this as an external EXR files. Okay, so this will be for heavy compositing. We don't need this right now, so we will be just choosing the file where the file directory where we gonna save our final results, and we can go and select here the placement. You can do that now, or you can leave it because you're gonna like select different file outputs for different projects, so no need to do this right now. But let's say for the most part, we need to select the file format. So for heavy compositing, I guess EXR is the most EXR is the most like used files in the industry, but we don't need to do that right here. We can choose either like JPEG files for less or smaller file sizes, or if you want like to use transparent backgrounds, you're gonna select like PNG with the RGB alpha, or RGBA color mode. Okay, and no need to have this at 16 bits, as 8 is good for now for the result that the software reproduces, but 16 will give you more details and more data information that in the post-production using Photoshop or whatever software that you use for post-production, you can change this to 8-bit back again later. So this is mostly like the setup, so we can keep this as default, or you can even use the TIFF file if you want to save these as TIFF from the beginning. is it's keeping the transparency of the background or any element option existing, but it will also like produce huger or bigger files size wise, and I don't think like if you're gonna like uh, render separate layers, this will be like more optimal for you if you don't have like, or if you don't have like more capacity to storage, or if you don't like go and delete the all the unnecessary files from your storage later. So just keep it in PNG, RGB, A, and this will be good for now. Post processing and metadata won't be like necessary to dive in, so you can explore this by yourself, but there is no need to change anything there. The next thing will be the viewing layer or the separate passes. This is very important, and for this I guess we might need to tap into the compositor section, but let's go here. This will give you the option to separate like render passes and have those later to composite this as you want. So basically what we're gonna do here is just select this, check these boxes to get the desirable passes selected and added to the data or information of the image rendered. But one thing is different from other softwares is that this action doesn't mean that necessarily this will be saved as separate layers when you hit like the F2 button to render the file or render the scene. You will need like extra manual work to set up this output for separate layers to have this automatically saved later. So what I mean by this, I will hit like F12 first to render the scene. I might need to go back, so the view layer, with the view there is something that's not showing in render. Okay, so it's Suzanne, but I'm not seeing that this is a shadow catcher. Okay, so I'm not sure. Oh, okay, it's rendering all of these scenes, so we might need to go. I'll show you this detail. So in the render view layers, you can select this scene and select this render single layer. So now you can have this only this view layer rendered if you hit F12. Otherwise it will go through all the other view layers and render those separately, but this will take more time, so now no need for this. You can like remove this for from use for rendering if you want to have all these rendering separately, but for now I will have this rendered as a single layer. So I will start with this just for demonstration purposes. We will have this rendered. As you can see in real time, this may be the time that will take you to render the image, and this will vary from different workstation and different like setups depending on the power of the workstation. So we'll move this to the side, or even like close this. If you close this and you want to reveal it back, you can hit F11 on the keyboard, and this will have the scene back. Or you can go to render and have view render back. So as I said, I'll render this back, move it to the side. wait until it finish rendering, and while it does that we can go to the compositing section and we can explore this more. So first of all, this is the compositing or compositor panel. As I said, there is a tool section. If you hit T, which has annotation and links, cut and select boxes, it's basic tools, and you have these panels on the side. The panels on the side is very important as it contains like the settings and options for the different nodes that we're gonna use. But first of all, you need to activate the nodes within the scene by going here and checking this box, use nodes. Now you're gonna see this render layers visible. It's not what we have already rendered, but you can change this by selecting the view layers here. So the desired view layers, you can select whatever you want. You can select different scenes if you have created different scenes, and now you can go. So basically you have this render layer. This contains the passes that we have already created or selected. So if we haven't already selected any passes or render passes, there won't be showing any of these. But let's say we have already selected one, so it will be appearing here. So you have the image or the beauty shot, the alpha if there is transparency, the noisy image, that the noisy data image if you want to have more control over the denoising. So we're gonna go here and select what I think is the most important one. So maybe the glossy indirect, and what I use usually is either environment, ambient occlusion, and the cryptomat section is very important, so you select those three. I will show you how to use those later, but these are the passes. You can, like, as we have already activated the node wrangler, you can click Ctrl plus Shift plus left click on the node itself, and this will activate the viewer node. So this will give you a way to view your render or your compositing, your final compositing. Also, what I like to do is to go here to have the same output at final. I will go and hold shift and right click and drag on these two links to combine those and have one reroute node. So one other thing, I want to split this into, so split this like that. I want to have one showing the nodes only and one showing the view, the final view. So for this I will move the nodes to the side by holding the middle mouse button or the click and hold the wheel of the mouse and move this to the side. And to enlarge or decrease the size of the viewer, you have to toggle between V for decreasing and Alt V for enlarging. So V for making this smaller, this will be good. Now, and if you want to move this around, you hold Alt and the middle mouse and move this. But if you hold the middle mouse by itself, it will move the node. So we move this to the side and we will have this we will move the viewer. Now we have nodes and we have the viewer. Okay, so no need, I guess, for timeline here. So and also from here, and we can also swap areas. This will give us more control. So now what we need to do is to, let's say, as I said, highlight this in the viewer. I will change this reroute later, but for now let's see how to see each layer and what each layer highlights. So basically we don't have alpha here, but if we click Control and Shift and left click, this will highlight the output in the viewer. So if you click again, it will highlight the output underneath it, and going forward with that, it will go through all the other outputs. For now we didn't select the viewing layers or passes before rendering the image, so it doesn't have any data included in the rendered image. So in order to have this viewed, we need to hit F12 again. So that's why I have already said that you need to set up all the details before starting rendering, so you will be set up, and you don't want to waste time if you have already rendered multiple images or big images with a higher resolution. So give it a couple of seconds. The viewer has disappeared from here because there is no rendered image yet, so it will appear again. Okay, so now I'm gonna toggle back with Control Shift and left click, and now you can see that there is some images or some information showing in the other different outputs. So the environment, we don't have separate environment because we have the backdrop that we have created as our scene environment. So we need to get rid of that if we want to get access to the environment of the scene. Other than that, there is these crypto objects and these cryptomat outputs. This is basically just for collecting data. We won't be using this because there has been like some changes in the nodes, but you can see some sort of the data collected. Not everything is visible. We don't have multiple objects in the scene. We have only one object, one main object, so it won't be very visible or very understandable for you. And also lastly, there is the noisy image. You can see there is some difference between this and the first like denoised image. So the noisy image will have all the noise information, and this will differ depending, as I said, on the value of the threshold that you have already set here. So going back here, now we want to create basically a cryptomat, and also we want to know how to set up properly the output file. So to get the output, this layer saved in some directory or library, we need to create a new output group, which is created by the same shortcut Shift A across all other tabs. If you gonna create something new, you gonna use the same shortcut Shift A. This is very helpful in Blender. So Shift A, we're gonna search for output, and we have file output. Okay, so the file output will contain these inputs and the link. So that's basically the options visible. But if you go to the side, as I said, you hit N and reveal this property options, you can access this from here. You have more options. You can change the type of the file, and you can change more details like color management. You can override this if you want to from here. For different like outputs, you can have multiple file outputs, or you can have multiple inputs within the same file output. So if you want to have one directionary, you can create like one file output and add multiple inputs, and this is like already fully customizable, so you can do whatever you want here. So let's follow the scene. No need for different color management. So here we can use alpha, and I will show you how to extract alpha using cryptomats. You can add like ambient occlusion or AO input, and you can have also, let's say, what do we want to have. We can have the noisy image if you want to, and you can see that this is very easy to do. You can add how many inputs that you want. You can rearrange those, you can select, and you can see. I guess you can have different file format for each. No, you cannot, but if you want to, you can have multiple file outputs with different file format for each input. So let's get back to PNG, and now you can just connect this, drag this over, and connect like the environment. We don't have environment. I can change the noisy image, or we can add another one for the glossiness. It's a glossy and direct. We don't need environment. We're gonna have the glossy and direct. We're gonna have the AO. We're gonna have the noisy image. And let's go back here. They're gonna be still missing this alpha input. You can rearrange those also if you want to be like linked properly. For the alpha, we will require to have this cryptomat node. This seems difficult to understand, but it's very simple. So cryptomat, it took me too much time to understand it, but it's simple once you get it. So what we just need to do is to connect the image output and this image input, and have this mat output connected to the alpha. That's the first step. Now that you have already done this, we need to bring back our viewer and maybe make it smaller, just to select from here. So you're gonna select the render or an external image, but for here the render. You're gonna select the scene that you are working on. Then you're gonna select the type of selection or masking that you want to do. So you can basically select or mask like based on the object or the materials or the assets. So you can select different materials or mask different materials, different object or assets. Assets, that means anything that you create here, let's say a shader, an object, a geometry node, a scene setup. You can right click and mark as asset, and that will save this to the asset library within the Blender software. This is another topic, so we'll talk about this later, but you can select, let's say here, objects, cryptomat objects. So objects, and you gonna select this plus button and hover over this scene, and let's go back to the shadow cryptomat object. Okay, and it's gonna basically give you names, but I think this will be more visible in the newer version of Blender. But for now, you're gonna hover over the desired object and just pick this out. But what I want to do, or what I usually do, since I can have like multiple objects and more complicated objects. It's easier to select the background and mask this than mask different objects. You can like select multiple objects, but that will be tedious to do. So selecting one single object will be easier, and you can invert the selection later. So I can select the background, and we can view this in the viewer. So I'm not sure if this is working now. This is our scene, and this is, I'm gonna select view layer, okay, crypto, okay, this one. And now, okay, so we were like we were creating like multiple viewer layer, and that's why it showed like shadow, object, crypto, and asset, and objects, crypto, and asset, and background also, because there is like different layers here. But we need like to choose the viewer layer or the view layer 001 here, and select object. Now we can select the background or backdrop as we have already named in our scene. We can move this away now, we don't need this. We can even getting smaller. Now, as you can view here, this is what the file output will be. And what we can do easily is either like invert this within Blender, or have this inverted in post-production in another software. So we can click Shift plus A, search, and then invert color, and we can have this inverted just like that. Okay, and to view this, just Control Shift and left click on this to view it. And now we have the file output setup. We can go back and rearrange this to have it on the bottom, so it will be all linked. I guess also you can group if you want to. I'm not sure. You cannot group, but you can like let's keep this as it is. Okay, so this is basically what you have already saved, and you can get back to the viewer, the final image. And now whatever directionary you have already selected, you will find this there. So I will select something on the desktop. I'll create a new one, test for test, and I will choose this folder and accept. Now if I hit F12, I will render this again just for the final time, and I guess we can find that folder. Okay, we can open this folder, and you will see that the render layer will appear here. I haven't selected or added like the final image, because this will be saved automatically, but the output for that will be whatever output that we have selected here. So this will be the folder to find this. So I can change this or add it to the file output if I want to, but there is no need now. I just need to demonstrate that this gonna save separate layers, separate view layers, or separate passes. As you can see here, this is the passes that we have already saved. There is no information in the glossy and direct. We can like refine this or change it with another one, but the ambient occlusion is here, the mask that we have created is here, and the noisy image is here. So this concludes what I wanted to show you about the compositor now. we can dive in later in the plugin, but I think this is it for now. So thank you for your attention, and we're gonna move on to the next